This is part 3 of What If Goku Was Raised by Cooler. Turles runs as quick as he can to warn Kakarot. Kakarot does get tired of Turles coming up with these allegations against Cooler, but this time, maybe something is different, because Turles is almost hysterical. Kakarot grabs both of Turles' shoulders and he asks him what's going on. Turles begins to tell Kakarot everything that he heard. Kakarot grits his teeth and he pushes Turles back and holds up his hand to form a ki blast in his palm. Turles grits his teeth and he tells Kakarot that he needs to listen to this warning and heed it before they both die. Kakarot shoots the blast in front of Turles. He turns his back to Turles because he doesn't want to hear anything else he has to say. Kakarot starts to walk towards the exit, but before he leaves, he tells Turles to prepare for a mission. Turles watches Kakarot walk out and he's very angry. Why does Kakarot have to act like such an idiot? He shouldn't be going through this, especially with a Saiyan that's just like him. If Kakarot doesn't want to heed this warning, maybe there's no saving him. He'll just have to find a way to kill Cooler and Frieza himself, or even Kakarot if he decides to continue being a pet and protecting Cooler. The Saiyans set off on their journey to go find the Saiyans for the first time. This should benefit Kakarot because now he has someone to help him search and not have to do all the work on his own. Plus, Turles has gained so much power throughout this time being with Kakarot, so now he doesn't really have to cling to him like he would have if he didn't train. The duo flies throughout space, pillaging Frieza's planets to scout the Saiyans, but there's still no sign of them. Kakarot is frustrated. Another planet and still no sign of the Saiyans. Turles notices the tick mark on Kakarot's head and he begins to walk back towards the space pod to get ready to go to another planet. Kakarot puts his hands on the ground and shoots a blast that hits the core. Then he continues walking back to his space pod and he and Turles leave the planet seconds before it explodes. When they finally reach this new planet, it seems very similar to the other one that they were just on. It's getting really irritating. If they wasn't on the last one, why would they be on this one? Kakarot was going to dispose of this planet as well until Turles tells him to look up into the air. 3 space pods plummeting from the sky. Kakarot has hope. Could this be them? Kakarot and Turles flies towards the space pods and hover above them. Vegeta is the first one to step out, confirming Kakarot's suspicions. It's them. Finally, after all this time, they're meeting again. Kakarot instantly flies down to recruit the Saiyans to join him and work for Cooler, but just like Turles, they do not like the sound of that idea. They do want to join Kakarot, but working for Cooler isn't something they want to do. It's literally the same thing they're already doing. The only difference is they'll be working for Frieza's brother instead of him, so they'll decline. They're not too interested in moving up through the family tree. Turles tells Kakarot that he isn't the only one that finds that repetitive. They're Saiyans. Now that they all together, they could fight to kill both Frieza and Cooler themselves and rule the entire universe together. Or they can just divide it into sectors and each Saiyan gets one. Or they can pair together and we can just work together that way. Vegeta likes the sound of that. That is something that a Saiyan would say. Kakarot tries to convince them once again, but they're seeming to not want to listen to him. As the Saiyans begin to argue, 5 space pods enter the atmosphere and flies throughout the air. These particular space pods have the Ginyu Force emblem in front of them. Every Saiyan that's here right now is very familiar with who these guys are. They're like pissed, won't leave us alone. Kakarot tells Turles that he's going to finish these guys off once and for all, and Turles agrees. He has to get revenge for what they did to his crew. Turles fires a large blast at one of the space pods and it explodes. Kakarot flies full speed to where they crash land, and the Ginyu Force aren't too happy about what just happened. Guldo was killed. Turles shoots another blast at the group, and Recoome is the one to slap it away. How ironic, the one to deflect his attack is the one that Turles hates the most. Turles grits his teeth upon seeing Recoome, because he's the only reason that his crew is dead right now. If he never came to that planet, they'll still be alive. Turles always try to convince himself that he doesn't care that his crew died, but it's just a simple fact that Recoome is still living, and he can actually say he was the one to destroy his crew. And Turles does not like that one bit. Kakarot lands in front of the Ginyu Force, and he doesn't appear to be too happy. Captain Ginyu smiles upon seeing Kakarot, because he's the one who finally found the monkey that's been causing Lord Frieza so much trouble. And maybe, if this Saiyan is strong enough, he could actually take his body and use his power as his own. Kakarot's power spikes, and each of the Ginyu Force member scouters explodes. Turles rushes towards Recoome in a fit of rage, and he slams his fist into his face, sending him flying across the land since he was distracted by the scouters exploding because of Kakarot. Recoome might have been forced away, but it's still 3 against 1. Ginyu feels very confident. Even if this Saiyan Kakarot is kinda strong, Ginyu does not think Kakarot is enough to beat him and his crew. Ginyu screams for Jason Berta to get Kakarot, and they rush towards him immediately. Watching from afar, Vegeta and the other Saiyans are very confused. How did the Ginyu Force manage to get to this planet? And why does Kakarot and Turles feel that confident to fight them? Do they actually think that they can win? Raditz doesn't want to stand around anymore. He starts to fly over to where they're fighting at, and Vegeta and Nappa flies behind him. Vegeta pulls his hair and tells him not to let himself be seen. If Kakarot and Turles are killed here, they'll have to leave, and they don't want to be seen by the Ginyu Force just in case that happens. Nappa tells Vegeta and Raditz to look over there at Kakarot, and they turn their heads to see him beating up 2 of the members of the Ginyu Force. He's also beating up Captain Ginyu. Vegeta can't believe his eyes. No way Kakarot is that strong. What has he done to gain that strength? Raditz checks his scouter and reads Kakarot's ki, 90,000. He's at the same level as Ginyu, but his power is continuously increasing. Vegeta checks his scouter. His reads 135,000. Vegeta can't believe this. He takes his scouter off and he crushes it. A loud explosion is heard in the distance while all this is happening, and it catches everyone's attention. On the north side of this battlefield, a large amount of smoke is all that they can see until a dark silhouette appears. Jay smirks. He tells Goku it looks like his friend has been bested, and now the rest of his kind and himself will follow along in the afterlife with the other one that was fighting Raccoon once he comes back. Jace begins to erupt in laughter until Butter tells him to look closely. The silhouette that's walking out of the smoke does not belong to Raccoon. As the person approaches, the hairstyle reminds them of Goku's, and they know exactly who it is. It's Turles, and he appears to have something in his hand. Once everyone can see who it is, and they notice that it's actually Turles, they see something in his head, and it actually looks very familiar. Turles raised Raccoon's head into the air so that Jace and Burter and Ginyu could see what it was. Turles then throws the head into the air and shoots a ki blast at it that explodes it. The other Saiyans and the rest of the Ginyu Force cannot believe what they just saw. The only person that actually expected this was Kakarot. He's very proud that Turles was able to get his revenge. Kakarot smirks at Turles, and Turles smirks at him. But this is perfect timing for Ginyu. While everyone is distracted by this little display from Turles, he can come up with a plan. At this rate, Kakarot is still a large threat to attempt to make an advance on him. It's a 50-50 chance. He could possibly be killed, but then again, he could take his body and actually survive. But then, the other one, Turles, he's just as strong as Kakarot, or at least he thinks he is. Turles has to at least be tired from fighting Raccoon, but who cares? Ginyu has a few seconds left to make up his mind before they begin fighting once again. Vegeta looks over the battlefield and there's no sign of Ginyu. Where could he have possibly gone, and why hasn't nobody noticed this? Another huge explosion has just happened, but this time it's in 2 different places. Everyone turns their head and gets off their guard once again, because who could possibly have known what this could have been? Tick mark grows on Kakarot's head, because he could have been done with this entire situation sooner than this. But now who knows? Because of them 2 explosions, he probably has to deal with something that's more than what he's dealing with now. Everything gets quiet, and the only thing that everyone hears is change now. He's made his choice. Turles screams Kakarot's name before his body gets taken away, and Kakarot narrows his eyes towards Turles and Ginyu. But it doesn't make no sense. Why is Ginyu behind Turles all of a sudden? Ginyu begins to laugh loudly inside of Turles' body, and Turles inside of Ginyu's body is beyond confused. Why is he over there? And how is it possible that he's seeing himself? Turles starts to scream what's happening to him. Turles starts to hear his own voice, and he hears himself speak once again. He screams even louder. Why does he sound like this? Turles looks at his hands and his arms. Then he feels his face and the pointy horns on his head. Turles can't believe what's going on right now. There is no way possible that he's in this disgusting creature's body. Turles angrily screams at Ginyu what did he do to him, and why does he have his body? Ginyu flies over to Jace and Burter, and they look at him just as confused until Ginyu snaps at them. Ginyu starts to tell them how he changed body with that sand. Ginyu looks up at Kakarot and he smiles evilly. This is it. This is getting beyond annoying. Kakarot is done. This worm really thinks that he can get away with taking a Saiyan's body like a coward instead of dying with honor in his own body? Kakarot cannot stand for this. Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz are all thinking the same thing as everyone else. What just happened? Ginyu rushes towards Kakarot and Jace and Burter follow behind him. Ginyu attempts to strike Kakarot, but Kakarot grabs his hand and begins crushing it. He looks at Ginyu and Turles' body directly in his eyes, and fear begins to consume him. In a direct, aggressive manner, Kakarot tells Ginyu to change back now. Ginyu begins to stutter, and he's actually trying to swing again, but Kakarot knees him in the stomach, then grabs Ginyu by his hair and throws Turles' body into the ground as hard as possible. Once Turles' body makes contact with the ground, a 15 feet deep crater is created. Turles smacks his teeth. From the looks of it, it seems like Kakarot enjoyed doing that way too much. Things aren't going well for Ginyu right now, but one thing is for sure, Kakarot is in his line of fire. He screams out, "Change now." This is Turles' cue. He remembers hearing Ginyu say that when he changed with him. He jumps directly into the blast, and he changes back to his original body. Ginyu screams out loud, "No," and before he could even spit out another word, Kakarot shoots a death beam directly through his forehead. Ginyu's body falls forward slowly, and now he's deceased and out of the battle. Kakarot blitzes towards Burter, and he punches a hole through his chest, ripping out his heart. Chase will try to escape after seeing all this happen like a coward, until he gets met by the same fate as his comrades, death. Kakarot shoots 4 death beams through Jace's body that kills him instantly. Finally, Kakarot got those flies out of his head. He looks over at the other Saiyans, and they look at him with a shocked expression. They can't believe how strong he is, and they can't even believe what they even just seen. Maybe if they join him, they'll have a chance of reaching his strength. Still, there's Cooler. They have to worry about him, and maybe if they get strong enough, they can actually force Kakarot to join them by force. Then there's Vegeta. He still can't believe how strong these 2 low-class Saiyan warriors are. It doesn't make no sense to him, especially since one of them is Raditz' brother of all people. For heaven's sake, he's the prince of all Saiyans, a Saiyan elite. There should be no reason he's comparing himself to these 2. But yet, 2 low-class disposable Saiyans is this much stronger than him. He has to obtain more strength and get as strong as possible so that he could be number 1, instead of Kakarot, Turles, Frieza, and even Cooler. Raditz flies over to Kakarot, and they look at each other in their eyes, and they begin to gain a mutual respect for one another, causing them to shake hands. Vegeta scoffs, and he tells Kakarot that he'll join him, but he will not be no pet for anybody else ever again. Kakarot nods his head. Kakarot would then yell out to Turles to come along. They're finna return back to Cooler's planet, but Turles shouts out that he can't even move right now. Kakarot then flies down to where Turles is, and he lifts him by his armor and flies him back to the space pod. He then apologizes to Turles and tells him he didn't actually mean to do this to him like this. He just had to. Turles then scoffs at Kakarot. He tells him that he isn't trying to hear anything that he has to say. He felt like this was on purpose.